Welcome back to another episode of Light Beer, Dark Money. This is a special day. This is Mr. Chris Clements, Light Beer's birthday.
It is.
39th birthday.
Well, 45 and holding, maybe.
45.
Yeah.
That sounds more believable.
We are getting older, and yeah, I celebrated my birthday this morning with a big workout.
Good.
Just to make sure I could still do it.
I have not yet worked
I
out
got
today.
out of bed, which was great.
That's
you know?
it. So, hey, it's always a plus.
But it's
on
just
your
not
birthday.
my birthday. It was your birthday.
I had birthday on Monday. That's right.
You went to Toca Madera.
It's Toca Madera. Early,
$18 tacos.
$18 tacos because it was the happy hour, the taco box. Highly recommend. My first time there, I really enjoyed it. It was the first date that Alyssa and I have been on without the kids since New Year's Eve of 2019.
That is amazing.
Which we didn't. I mean, it's not like we have to do stuff like that because we get time alone all the time.
That's amazing.
But we just like a going out to dinner with just the two of us. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
that's great.
pandemic and all that stuff. It just and two kids.
Well, we're
yeah.
the only thing we're taking the family out tonight. We're going to Tarbell's right down here.
There you go.
Camelback.
Good.
And have you looked outside? It's raining in Phoenix.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? 78 degrees and cloudy.
Well,
and rainy.
when I took the kids on a walk this morning, it was 71 degrees.
It's fantastic.
I mean, it was
Love this
90%
time of year.
humidity, but which is rare. But it's also the birthday week of our guest.
Our guest, Mr. John David Dester of Leesburg, Virginia, formerly of eHealth, and now with Health Equity,
With Health Equity.
which is one of the foremost advocates and providers of health savings accounts in the country.
It's a fancy way of saying he's a lobbyist.
He's a lobbyist. Yeah.
But we like him.
He's a healthcare lobbyist. And he's been a healthcare lobbyist, well, I mean, since we've known him.
Yeah, that's been your thing. Right, John?
Well, I appreciate the chance to celebrate the three of our birthdays together. I'm calling you from the deep recesses of my bunker in Loudoun County, Virginia. And happy to be here with you guys. And yes, I am a healthcare lobbyist.
Do you have a teleprompter in front of you telling you what to
Happy
say?
to be here from the deep breath.
I thought
Pause.
that might remind you of somebody.
Pause. Blink.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. Did you see this video?
I did see the video.
He didn't blink for 2 minutes.
I did see the video.
It was a video of Joe Biden. Just go on Twitter, the dumpster fire, and just put in "doesn't blink." And
Oh no,
I'm sure it'll
he
pop
was
up.
addressing some convention or some conference, and they filmed it, and he didn't blink. He read from the teleprompter properly, I think.
I
but
was like, "How's that guy's eyes not just totally drying out?"
I don't know. I mean, JD, do you have any sort of insights into what's going on in Washington these days? Because it seems just Looney Tunes.
Well, as John McCain would say, Joe Biden is a great American, but he's an older American. And, John McCain got in a lot of trouble when he first ran for Congress because he called Leisure World Seizure World.
Right?
And it almost cost him the election until John Tower flew out. Well, he's also being accused of being a carpetbagger. John Tower was the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee from Texas. He flew to Arizona and made a speech and said the only place John McCain has ever lived longer than Mesa, Arizona is the Hanoi Hilton because his family was a military family, so they
Right.
bounced around a lot. And he has the right to run from any congressional district he darn well pleases. And that kind of put that issue to bed.
It did. It's epic. I mean, it was.
But that
It's the
seizure
most-
world comment wasn't very well taken in Arizona.
Yeah, but my mom lives there now,
In Leisure World?
and
Yeah.
he was right.
Oh, my. Well, I mean, thankfully, we're not quite there yet,
Yeah.
in our advanced stages of age.
Yes. Well,
But,
as I posted on my social media accounts, I said that this is 52, and I'm looking forward to the next 52. So we've got a lot of time.
That's
We've got a lot of time. And John, I expect you to be there with us.
Thank you for that. I appreciate the vote of confidence.
But John, what sort of things are you working on today? You were with eHealth for a number of years and had a great career there. Really, I would say put them on the map on in many regards. And now you're transitioning to a new position at Health Equity. And I think I posted the other day on LinkedIn. I mean, you were really one of the key lobbyists, I think, back in the early 2000s on the whole HSA both implementation and then subsequently its expansion.
Absolutely.
And it's been revolutionary for the private markets and the public markets. So this is a great thing.
Thank you. HSAs are a great tool for people to save for healthcare costs. And I think what we're finding is that, they're definitely rising in popularity. And I'm very happy to just join Health Equity a couple weeks ago. A great company led by a great CEO and the founder, who's a dear friend, Stephen Nealman, who's a surgeon, an emergency room physician and surgeon who was trained actually at the University of Arizona in Tucson. That's how we first met. But I think what people, completely regardless of political affinity, are figuring out is that healthcare is expensive, and that workers, for big firms, small firms, medium-sized firms, are all struggling with the cost of healthcare, even after accounting for the typically relatively rich coverage that they have through their employer. Employer-sponsored coverage typically is good coverage, and President Obama's ambition to extend that coverage to people who didn't have insurance was based in part on the type of coverage that people get in large firms. But even workers in large firms in this country have higher and higher deductibles, co-payments, co-insurance, and they need some help. They need an incentive to start saving for healthcare costs. We call them unexpected healthcare costs, but really they are expected. As we know, we're celebrating our birthday. We're all getting older. Healthcare costs are going to happen to us. Even the young invincibles are going to have healthcare costs at some point. So why not save now? And so we're excited about having some discussions on Capitol Hill with policymakers on both sides about providing those incentives and tools to all Americans, regardless of whether they have health insurance, what type of health insurance they have. But start saving for your healthcare costs, because you're going to have them.
Yeah, no question.
That's a really good point. And HSAs have become so much more dynamic now that they're both ways to defer health, to be able to pay for healthcare costs down the line, but also as a savings vehicle. And now, after you've saved a certain amount, they're even a viable investment vehicle.
Yeah,
for many families.
So let's stick on the healthcare issue for just a second, just because I miss the days that I was dealing with this every day, working for Shattuck and then fighting against the Obama bill. Do you think that there's ever going to be a time that we detach health insurance with employment?
Oh, that's a great question. And you're thinking some really big thoughts. I thought we were here to just make fun of Chris for an hour, but
we can do that too.
We can talk some policy before we get into that as well.
It's much more interesting if we talk policy than make fun of me.
Well, I don't know.
Depends on maybe for you.
That's a good question, Sean. Some people contend, John McCain was one of them when he ran for president in 2008, that giving this huge tax incentive for employers to provide health insurance coverage wasn't the most efficient thing in the world, and that another way to skin the cat would just be give all that money, all the huge amount of tax incentive that exists in the tax code going to employers, give it directly to just individuals and let them go buy their own health insurance. You never know, I guess, but I think that issue to some degree has been settled. It doesn't seem like that's a direction we could, you could envision in the near future. I think there would have to be, a massive change in the way we think about benefits and work and incentives for that to happen. But McCain, he didn't articulate it very well in the 2008 campaign. Right. That was his policy, was to take the employee tax exclusion. That's the amount of money that goes to the employee for the health benefits that's not taxed as income, and start taxing that instead but give the same amount of money to individuals to buy their own health insurance. And as we anticipated, then Senator Obama accused him of raising taxes, and John struggled with explaining why it wasn't really a tax increase because we were just shifting it from the employer
Right.
to the individual.
Well, and it's crazy because, it's a system that really was born out of what happened in World War II when we put wage caps on companies, what they could pay people. And the way companies dealt with that was they offered benefits.
Yeah.
And so healthcare became it's a legacy benefit as a result of government control during World War II.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's right. And
it's locked people in.
And you mentioned Congressman Shadegg a moment ago. Well, one of the things he was working on when you were his chief of staff was the whole Patient's Bill of Rights issue.
Right.
And the fact that voters didn't like being told by an insurance company or their employer what kind of health care they were going to get. And so there was this effort on the part of the Democrats to give workers a private right of action against their employers for denying medically necessary treatments.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought at that time, well, if Congress gave that right to sue employers to individuals, then wouldn't employers finally get out of the business of providing health benefits to employees? I
Right.
mean,
It's like, why would
don't they want to be rid of this
Yeah.
huge responsibility? And the answer seems to be no. The use of health benefits as an incentive and a competitive edge by employers to attract quality employees continues to be, very much coveted by employers of all sizes. And so I thought if there was one thing that was going to cause them to walk away, it would be the potential of being sued over medical necessity questions. And even then, the employers were fighting to retain the opportunity to provide health benefits to employees. So I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon. But in the meantime, there are things we can do on two fronts. One is to incentivize workers to save money for inevitable healthcare costs. And number two, to help them become more active purchasers of their own healthcare. If it's my money in my account, I might start asking some questions that I otherwise wouldn't have. And that was kind of the theory behind health savings accounts in the very beginning.
Which is a great idea because it's the opacity of the pricing process that makes people overconsume healthcare. Because
Well, yeah, when you're covered by insurance, regardless if it's in the private market or the public market, you're less likely to ask what things cost.
right,
Because you know what your deductible is, what your premiums are typically, but you're less likely to even worry about, okay, well, this is going to cost X. Whereas the cost that is paid by the insurance company could be totally different than what you might pay out of pocket if you just ask what this procedure or this service might cost.
Well, it's crazy when you see, like, when Alyssa was in the hospital, she had to be in the hospital for a few days prior to then being born and then his birth. I mean, it's crazy to see all the transactions and like the discounts that are given. It makes it, even if you see the itemized bill, you really have no idea what it really cost because there's so much game playing, or it seems like game playing to me, on what we get charged, what their insurance company gets charged. I don't know. It's
and then you have
such a complicated
the difference
thing.
of what on the government plans like Medicare. You have difference of what Medicare will cover or not cover, and you have a lot of private doctors who are not accepting Medicare anymore.
Right.
Just saying, you know what? I don't want to go through that hassle. Here's my price. If that's good for you, we can move forward.
Right. John, just to be on the topic of these kinds of things, the policy and DC, we've got Manchin has cut a deal with Schumer to do something with reconciliation. It's not Build Back Better. It's now called the Inflation Control Act or something like that.
It's still a Build Back Route, probably.
Yeah. But it has some, there's the drug, they want to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. And that's not what you deal with on a day-to-day basis, but that's obviously a big policy issue. Then there's the tax increases, and then all the spending on climate change. What's the scuttlebutt in the Beltway?
Well, your contacts and relationships are as good as mine, Sean. I'm sure you're getting lots of direct input from people on the Hill. But from where I sit, obviously this is a welcome development for Democrats. They've been talking about this for over a year, doing something on climate and some of these other top priorities. The size of the package obviously has come down considerably. So if one of Joe Manchin's objectives was to spend less money and to do some deficit reduction, it seems like he's won on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think taxpayers generally should be happy about that. Maybe they don't want to spend any money, but if less is more, then this is a step in the right direction, I suppose, compared to where they started. On the healthcare front, there's a lot of disagreement about the issue of the impact of price negotiation. I'm not an expert in that area, but I've always thought if we like free markets here at home, what we should be doing is pushing for free markets abroad, and we should be making price controls in other countries a matter of trade negotiations. And in fact,
Exactly.
it functions like a tariff on healthcare consumers in this country. We should be threatening tariffs against other countries who refuse to remove price controls, because it's not fair for Americans to pay more for the R&D costs of pharmaceuticals than it is for anybody else around the world. And so that's always been my view on that. The other thing that seems to be in the package, so to speak, is an extension of subsidies for people who qualify for extended subsidies under the Affordable Care Act. And that's good news for people who struggle with the cost of health insurance. It's not good news for Republicans who still think the ACA needs to be restructured, and that that one of the factors that was so clear about some restructuring that was needed was this subsidy cliff that existed, and what these ACA subsidies do is it removes the cliff, of course, but it does so by just spending more money, and so nobody's going to be denied some form of subsidy who qualifies for ACA coverage under the extended subsidies. And the people who benefit from the ACA are very happy about it. And the people who used to not benefit from it because of the subsidy cliff couldn't understand what was good about it because they weren't getting any subsidy.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems like what the Democrats have done is solve that problem just by giving everybody a subsidy.
Yeah. Well,
and it's only for a certain amount of time, isn't it? Is it limited by 2 years? And then they have to come back and vote on it again.
Well,
this package, I think, goes to 5.
Yeah, it just pushes 5. The cliff further away.
Yeah.
But there's still a cliff.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get steeper and deeper.
But that was yesterday. That deal was announced, yesterday? And today, front page of the Wall Street Journal, recession fears loom as U.S. economy contracts again.
Yeah. So
so it would be interesting to, with 9% inflation, which is a tax on the American worker and the American economy.
And the economy
contracting
almost 1%.
And we're gonna institute wage and price controls on a major industry and increase taxes. That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Well, and this deal also, the one piece of this deal that I think Democrats have underestimated how much it could hurt them in the messaging in the election coming up is that they increase the budget for the IRS significantly so they can go after taxpayers.
Yeah.
And do more audits. And I just, that's always worked as a message that we don't want to have even more IRS agents out there. So I don't know. I think I feel like the DC media and some Democrats are really overplaying this in the sense of, oh, this is going to help us. This is going to save our majority. I don't think that does anything. I think it might actually hurt them as a net.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. John, what's your sense?
That's funny. I was remembering about a year ago, I was at a reception and I ran into Senator Ron Wyden from Oregon, who you guys know is a pretty liberal Democrat, but actually can be very pragmatic when it comes to healthcare policy. And so, Medicare prescription drug bill that was passed during the Bush years and signed by President Bush, he was heavily involved in, as was Ted Kennedy. Anyway, long story short, I saw him at a reception about a year ago. Build Back Better looked like it was in trouble. I asked him, what's going to happen with it? And he looked at me and he said with total conviction, failure is not an option. And I thought, oh, okay, so that means they're going to find a way to get this done. Well, August went to September, September went to October. Now it's December, and I'm wondering, is Ron Wyden still going to be right about failure not being an option? Well, maybe in January there were rumors maybe they would resurrect it. By the time March came along, I thought he must have been wrong. I don't know if they're going to get this passed. And here we are in August, practically August, a year later, and it looks like it's got life back in its lungs again and could pass. And so Ron Wyden is looking more and more like a prophet every day.
The only thing standing between Ron Wyden being a prophet and not is our own Kirsten Sinema, I think.
She's been pretty adamant about no new taxes, so it'll be interesting to see what her position comes down to. In the final bill, again, it needs to be written. There's a lot more work that needs to be done.
They've got to go through the parliamentarian.
Yeah, we're entering into the August, the coveted August recess, where our members of Congress desperately need to come back and campaign, and we've got primaries next week here in Arizona and other places. So there's a lot happening, a lot of news between now and when this thing makes its way through, I think.
Yeah.
And with that, you're welcome to just roast me now.
Yeah, I was going to say, we beat that one. So, how old are you today?
I am 53 years young.
53 years young.
And I'm so blessed that all my kids, all three of them, say I look young.
Yeah.
Which
you do.
is nice.
You definitely don't look 53. At least
I don't feel 53. I had a great workout this morning. I did things that I think even 20 years ago I would never even done.
I definitely am in better shape now than I was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
For no question about it. John, what's your regime?
Well, I think you guys are studs because if you look at my picture and Chris's, I look 20 years older than him, and I'm only 1 year older.
Well, it's because you won't use the Grecian formula that I keep sending to you every month.
So the years have been kinder.
But you've got
Clem, as we affectionately call him. They have to me.
You have the guts to grow the. See, when I grow my beard, it looks just like yours, totally gray, which is why I don't grow it because I'm too vain, I guess. I don't know.
I sent you both, how you look like under Face App, at age 80.
80, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
not bad. I didn't think it was that bad.
I think
John looks more like his dad.
It looks like I'm looking at my dad when you sent me that.
Yeah, I know.
What's that app called? There's a free advertisement for the app.
Yeah. And I did mine, and for some reason it gives me like this long beard.
Yeah, I saw the
which is fine.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
I showed it to Alyssa. I was like, oh, look, this, Chris has got this app. She's like, has he never heard of Snapchat? Apparently they have filters for that.
Yeah, of course. I just don't snap.
Nor do I. Desser, do you snap?
Snapchat is evil. I'll just say that publicly.
Probably not as evil as TikTok, though.
It's the enemy of the parent, Snapchat.
Yeah.
Because you can't go back and read the text that your kids wrote. They erase automatically. So, when the twins, who are now high school graduates, they'll be freshmen this fall, when they were first experiencing the privilege of having a smartphone, we tracked all their stuff very carefully, and we collected their phones at night and all that. But Snapchat's like your nemesis because you can't go back and read what they've been doing. So we actually deleted Snapchat for a while until they earned our trust better. But it's just interesting to me that it's designed in that way. And I actually found that frustrating as a parent.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We had that little discussion and intervention with our eldest, Gracie. Yeah, at one point when it comes to Snap.
Who's here listening?
Who is here listening? Yeah, I have family members here who, both Gracie
Celebrating your
and
birthday.
my 8-year-old Campbell, who wanted to come and see us do
It's
this.
just terribly
do this little
exciting,
thing.
isn't it, Campbell?
Yeah,
She's having fun.
Well, and Campbell happens to be John's goddaughter.
Right.
That's correct.
It's a family affair today.
It is a family affair, which is all good.
I'm feeling like I'm wedging in on this or something.
No, you're part of the family now. You're the Uncle Sean that I go see every Thursday.
Yeah. Explain that one in therapy. 20 years from now.
Oh my! Well, at least we know how we'll look 20 years from now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
30.
30. Yeah, we'll still look
30.
good.
Yeah.
No, I really do want to compliment you guys. You guys look great. You work out. I don't know how many times a week you work out, probably every day. And I have some catching up to do to you guys. But, life is good out in Arizona because you guys are tan and rested and I hope ready to do battle.
Well, we've got a lot going on this year.
Well, we have elections coming up.
Yeah,
on Tuesday.
on Tuesday we've got the primary. It's going to be some disappointed people.
Yeah, I think it's going to
a
be
lot of
interesting
money
to see how the Republican Party even continues in a unified fashion after Tuesday, given whatever poll numbers you're looking at.
Yeah. The thing that's interesting, and John, you'll appreciate this because I know you follow Arizona politics. The two statewide candidates who have spent the vast majority of their own money, not that they spent the majority of their own money, but the vast majority of their spending has been their own money,
Sure.
are likely to lose. Jim Lehman is likely to lose to Blake Masters.
Yeah.
And I think Karen Robeson is likely to lose to Carrie
Carrie
Lake.
Lake. That's just doom and
Not,
gloom. But
I'm just
you know
stating what I think is the fact.
Yeah. Could be an interesting season that we're in.
Yeah.
Very interesting season. In the meantime, out in Virginia, it's all sunshine and rainbows.
Well,
With
and
Glenn Youngkin,
Youngkin's
Winsome Sears, and
Youngkin's numbers are continuing to be good, right, John?
Yeah, I think he's just a very astute citizen, and he's not a career politician. He's been in business for decades here in Virginia, and I think he just has an understanding for what the average voter is looking for. They don't want these highly controversial debates, right in their face. They just want common sense policies that are going to allow them to live their lives. You were just saying a moment ago, what John Shattuck's dad used to say about the average voter, and they're not reading the reports of what the legislature is doing on a daily basis and that sort of thing, but they gain an impression about a policymaker and someone who's running for office by the way they communicate their goal and their vision. And Youngkin just did that very well this last campaign, and it was very positive, and he didn't get bogged down in the nitty gritty. And then I would say Terry McAuliffe just made some really key errors and key mistakes. And Youngkin, I think, continues to govern in a very positive way. And I suspect his numbers will continue to remain high here as he continues to do that.
How serious is the rumor mill about him looking at running for president?
That's a really good question. I don't know the answer to that. I'm not close enough to his team to know if it's serious. I know there are other people who would like him to run, and they're serious about that.
Right. Isn't that
But
how
I
it
know
usually happens? The people
Yeah.
close to someone are more serious than the person themselves.
well, in a way, it should be like that, right? You should be leery of or wary of the person who thinks they should be president
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
than anybody else. And what any elected office should be something you're being recruited into or called to. The people, the policymakers who come to office with that mindset that they just couldn't say no anymore because they were being drafted into it or they felt led in a spiritual sense into it. Those are the ones who are the most successful because they don't care as much about the next election because they're not there because it was a career move.
Right.
They're there because they wanted to serve and do something good for the country. And this is true for both Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, and liberals. You see this on both sides, where you have policymakers who are, quote unquote, there for the right reasons. And then you have other policymakers that are biding time. And then you have a smaller group that shouldn't be there at all.
Right.
But the ones who came because it wasn't a career choice, it was more of a career sacrifice. Those seem to be the ones who do the most good and who fare well.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Agreed.
because they're coming from a place of principle. They're coming from a place of humility. They're willing to do the work because it's not about them.
Right.
It's not about them. And it seems like
And that's a rarity in politics.
It is.
It's amazing.
It seems, and I think what we're going to see here in Arizona is the difference between people who are willing to do the work in the grassroots versus those who just thought they could spend a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And the challenge is going to be for those who are elected in the primary, who still didn't really do the work and spend a bunch of money. Are they then able to pivot and create a unifying message to bring other people with them?
Right.
Well
And-
said.
And that will be a challenge, I think, for some of those candidates. I'm not going to.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, it is
because
it is
there's
the,
several that
it's
will be a challenge for.
the age-old challenge for candidates, for sure.
But we have, and what's so disconcerting is that we have so many candidates across the spectrum who look at politics as celebrity. And so, I mean, you term Twitter as the dumpster fire. Well, it's a dumpster fire because that's where people believe that they can gain celebrity, that they can tear other people down and then get on Fox News or get on CNN or get on MSNBC, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Increase their profile, get more likes and hits and everything else, and raise more money. That's all it's about.
Yeah.
It's like our friend David Schweikert always says, follow the money. If you want to understand why something is happening, just follow the money. You'll get a clear view really, really quick.
Yep.
I know it's a cynical view, but I think there's some
true,
reality
but
in that.
But it is reality. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But true. John, any big plans for the August? Well, I mean, regular America doesn't really think about August as the August break, like us politicos, because that's when Congress takes its recess. But
Coveted recess.
coveted recess, which
So
will
they
probably be dragged a little bit.
So they can go on all those trips overseas.
Yeah.
Too.
Well, and speaking of which, Pelosi's going to Taiwan, or appears to be going to Taiwan.
I think that's great, actually.
I'm
Well,
good for her.
Yeah.
Old move. I support that. Yeah, it is interesting how you get in this Washington mindset and the quote August recess, and yeah, it may be delayed by a day or two as they try to get this reconciliation package passed. But talking about the motivation for running for office, and it is important for members to go home and be in touch with their constituents and understand what people on the ground are thinking, feeling, and experiencing. But there's another more cynical side of it where regular citizens don't take a month off, and honestly, members of Congress aren't doing that either typically, right? They're in their district doing meetings,
Right.
they're doing some fact finding, trips, perhaps overseas, but it's not like they're taking the whole month off. But the perception is that if they're not in Washington legislating, they must be just goofing off for a whole month. And people don't like that perception because that's not their own experience. And so I always find it interesting that when you look at polls, people like their own member of Congress, but they hate Congress as a whole.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
The reason for that is because they think Congress is inefficient and ineffective and self-serving, but not my guy, because I see him once in a while and he's okay. And so there's a bit of a disconnect between how Congress as a whole is perceived by the public and the relationships that elected officials are able to make and maintain at the local level, which is critical. As Tip O'Neill always said, all politics is local, and you got to be home and you got to be with the people.
Right.
Which is getting harder and harder to do.
It is, but those that do it
Yeah.
benefit from it.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. John, it's been great to have you here as we celebrate Mr. Clements.
Thanks for the
53rd
honor. I highly respect both of you guys and well, mostly you, Sean. but Chris,
That's
is
fine.
a dear,
I'm good with that.
dear and loyal friend to me for over 30 years. Over 38 years. Good grief! I can't be that old.
Can you believe that?
But I do want to say a word of honor and blessing to my friend. I'm glad you were born. Thank you for the leadership you provided to your business for many years in Tucson. Thank you for your involvement in the political and policy arena, statewide and the local level. And the fact that you do this show just to try to shed a little bit of light on the process and what goes on behind the scenes, I think is a service. And I'm proud to call you my dear, dear friend.
Well, thanks, John. That is super humbling, and I believe I'm getting a little verklempt.
Oh, you should.
So
was
that
awesome.
is coming
That's a
from
great
you,
way to end it.
someone who I consider a brother and a brother in Christ, and some who I've been through the highest heights and the lowest lows with over those last 38 years, and couldn't have been on that journey with anybody better. And proud to have you as my kid's uncle and my daughter's godfather. And what a great godfather you are, and love your family, and really excited for this next season for you, which I think is just a testament to your perseverance and understanding of the issues and who you are as a person. So,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry that we are not there together this evening to go out and have French food at Chez Francois that we normally do.
That's right.
It'll still be there next year. And Sean,
Yes.
you're invited to join us.
Hey, I appreciate that.
Bring Alyssa. and
We
we'll have a
should, we
great
should
time
do
together.
we should do this show on the road next year.
Yeah, definitely.
Go to
Do
DC.
it from Washington.
We'll do a birthday week from Washington.
Yeah, we could set up somewhere. We can
Yeah.
have Alex come out,
Yep.
or we can just do it by Zoom,
Yeah.
We can zoom
do
it in.
that too.
which would be fun.
There you go.
I support that.
Hey,
All right,
John,
JD.
great to have you.
Thanks.
God bless you guys.
You
God
too.
bless.
Thanks for what you do.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
Take care.